Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. A couple of weeks ago, I posted a video showing 3 different ways to use embossing folders. That video received so many views, and I want to thank you all for supporting my channel. I received some requests in the comments to actually see how I was able to achieve the results that I was able to get with those embossing folders. So today I'm going to be fulfilling that request and showing you exactly how I'm able to do that. In my previous video, I shared with you all this Platinum 6 embossing machine that now comes with the universal plate system, all from Spellbinders. This beautiful black color is exclusive to scrapbook.com, and I'll be sure to link that below for you. I want to thank scrapbook.com for sending this out to me. We're going to use the 3 dots embossing folder from Sizzix. This is a thinner embossing folder. And then we're also going to use the Beautiful Blooms embossing folder from Spellbinders, which is a 3D embossing folder. Of course, we're going to be using some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock in the 80-pound weight for our embossing. I wanted to share with you guys that Spellbinders has a universal plate system compatibility guide. Spellbinders has done all the work for us, and this guide is so very handy. What this guide does is it tells you what sandwiches you need to have depending on the thickness of the embossing folders from various manufacturers. When I found out about this guide, I thought that was a fantastic tool to have, so I'm going to link it below so you guys can go find it and print it out and have it at your fingertips. So the first technique that I'm going to show you is the double embossing. So the double embossing involves 2 embossing folders. So we're going to start out with this 3-dot embossing folder from Spellbinders. You can see there that it was pretty thin. I'm going to spritz my Neenah Classic Crest cardstock with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to place that cardstock into my embossing folder. Get that placed down, close my embossing folder. Now I'm going to look at my Universal Plate System Compatibility Guide, and I'm going to start out by trying the sandwich that is appropriate for the Spellbinders 2D embossing folders. They don't have Sizzix on this list. Not all manufacturers are listed, but many of them are. So I'm going to start out with that one, and it tells me that I need to use sandwich combination number 1. So sandwich combination number 1 is going to involve the cutting plate, the embossing folder with the paper inside, platform top, B, and platform base. So there's my platform base, my platform top. Now I've put my embossing folder in, and now my cutting plate. This system comes with pink cutting plates. So I'm running that through my system, my embossing system, and let's see what kind of results we get. So the initial results I got were not very much at all. So I'm going to try a different sandwich. And sometimes you have to experiment with your sandwiches to make sure that you get the right combination. So I'm going to switch it up to sandwich combination 4. This is for the Fun Stampers Journey 2D embossing folder. So I'm going to switch up my plate combination, get that combination 4 in place, and then I'm going to try this again. Put all my pieces on. So now I have 2 cutting plates instead of what I had previously. I'm going to run this through the embossing machine, or the die cutting machine, and let's see the results that we get. There we go. That sandwich worked. Again, guys, you may have to experiment with different sandwich combinations to get the right results. So that gave me the impression for the 3 dots. Now we're going to move on to the Beautiful Blooms. At the bottom of this embossing folder, it tells you right there that this is a 3D embossing folder. So we're going to use the sandwich that is appropriate for Spellbinders 3D embossing folders according to our compatibility guide. And it tells us for that we should be using sandwich number 2. So we got our platform base, embossing folder, and then the adapter plate on top. This is the adapter plate. So that's what we're going to be putting on top of our sandwich. We're going to put that sandwich together, run that through our embossing system, the Platinum 6. And by the way, this universal plate system is sold separately, and you can use it on any Spellbinders embossing system. So if you have another Platinum 6, or if you have a Platinum system like I have, you can use this plate system with either one of those systems as well. And now you can see how I was able to achieve the beautiful results for double embossing. Beautiful combination. So for the second technique for today's video, we're going to be doing the inked folder technique. So we're going to apply some dye ink to our embossing folder. So in the end, one part of our embossed image will be the color of the cardstock, and the other part will be the color of the ink. So I'm showing you here that you want to put the ink on the part of the embossing folder where the image is recessed into the plastic. So where you put the ink is going to be kind of the background part. So I'm taking my dye ink, and just as before, I'm rubbing it all over my embossing folder. I'm even tamping it down in some places to make sure that I have good coverage. And because I'm using an A2 size piece of paper, I want to make sure that my ink goes beyond my size of paper so that I have good coverage from edge to edge. So I've put that piece of cardstock into my embossing folder. I've closed my embossing folder, and now I'm going to figure out the sandwich that I need. So again, this is a 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders. So I need sandwich number 2 for this. So I'm going to put my sandwich together, which includes my adapter plate. And then I'm going to run this through my embossing machine, or my die cutting machine. I keep calling it embossing machine. I don't know. My die cutting machine, it does do embossing as well though. So I guess it could be both names. And when I take my sandwich out, get everything out of the way, it's a tight fit in the frame here. You can see that we get a beautiful result from inking the embossing folder and pressing that ink onto our cardstock. This is fast becoming one of my favorite techniques to use for card making. So you may be wondering, how am I going to get this ink off of my embossing folder? Because you want to make sure that your embossing folder goes back to a clean beginning so that you can use it on future. And so I use stamp cleaner. I've found that the stamp cleaner is the best thing to get the ink quickly and easily off of my embossing folders. So I've just sprayed some stamp cleaner onto my embossing folder, and using a microfiber towel, I just wipe the ink away. So I played around with the inking method, and I wanted to share some of the results I was able to get with you guys. But before I do that, let's take a closer look at the techniques we did today. So this is the double embossing, and you can see there we got a great result between those two embossing folders. And here is the inking the embossing folder, and I love this combination. Now let's take a look at a couple of other examples I made. So this is the Circle Illusion embossing folder from Spellbinders, which is also a 3D embossing folder. And you can see at the top of my papers there, I was able to get a good embossed image. But as we got closer to the bottom, so as the embossing folder was going through the system, it started to get off a little bit. And so if I had to choose, I would not choose that embossing folder to use with the inking technique. So I tried this technique with a embossing folder called Butterfly Dance from Anna Griffin, and I was able to get a great results with that. So this is the Tree Rings embossing die from Tim Holtz. This is a 3D embossing folder and one of the thickest on the market, and I absolutely love the results I was able to achieve with that embossing folder. This is also a 3D embossing folder from Sizzix called Dandelion Wish, and I got good results with that. And then I went out and kind of really stretched myself with this last one here because I wanted to see what would happen if I used several different colors of ink and kind of blended them together, and I love the results I got with that one. That was using the Optical Arches embossing folder from Spellbinders. So there you have it, everybody. I really hope this video has been helpful to everyone. If it has, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Be sure to check me out on Instagram and Facebook at The Delta Crafter, and you can also visit my website and blog at thedeltacrafter.com. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I hope you have a great day. Enjoy!